on the other side. The light on this side, I think.
No.
This week we're in Bolton with £60,000 to spend and 4 days to find a house. As usual, the pressure's on.
So, hey everybody, how are we doing? Welcome to this week's show. It's good to see you. Just waiting for a few people to jump on. I just couldn't resist playing the old Over the Hammer music and a little clip from Location. I noticed, like, why were they standing in a phone box in this day and age, waiting for the? I suppose it's quite dramatic, isn't it? Going to make sure that we are live before we kind of carry on. Just waiting for a few people to jump on. Yeah, good. So if somebody could give us a thumbs up, let us know you're there. That'd be great. We're slightly late today just for a few technical issues, but we're getting there now. So we're all good. So welcome. I'll bring in my very good friend, Ranjit Seerha, property expert. How are you?
Good evening, Darren. Sorry for my mistiming. I think with many projects, we're always running late. So
no, that's fine. Well, that's it. That's what it is. It is what it is. But no, thanks a lot for coming on. Obviously, I met you. Was it 2 years, 3 years? I'm not sure when it was now.
About 3 years ago. Yeah. I think we met. I did a property training event. That's 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
I did a property training event in the Roundhouse in Derby. You were there in the audience.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm quite impressed. You left me a little testimonial, which has been very handy.
Yeah, totally. So besides, I don't know if people know or not, but besides other stuff that I do, I kind of dabble in property a little bit. Not in the last year, but not a big sale, just kind of flipping stuff. So I'll buy it in a state of disrepair. So I've done a couple up to now, but so yeah, I mean, even in the hour that we spent together, they say knowledge is power. And I know when we met before all this kicked off, we met for coffee, and my friend was with me, and he thought, I want to get into property, but I haven't got the resources. And when we found out, after he told us his circumstances, he was shocked. And he said, "Jeff, but you've got this. You've got this flexibility."
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you just don't know. I mean, quite often with anything in life, there's the old magical triangle of what you need in life: either time, money, or experience, knowledge. And we sometimes, so we haven't got the money, but you're lapping it up. You've done a couple of refurbs. You've got loads of knowledge there. That's far more knowledge than the average person who perhaps has not even bought a house.
Absolutely. And do you think like shows on telly, do you think they've simplified it, or do you think it's a good thing? Do you think they make it look too easy?
Yeah, I think TVs, they want a dramatic story, don't they? So if somebody who brings a multi-100,000 pound, £200,000, 300,000, £1 million project on time, exactly what they wanted, without any problems, it doesn't make good TV, does it? So
no,
TV has spoiled us that it is easy to do things, and if you throw enough money at it, and some of the programs do have endless money pits, which is kind of worrying.
Yes,
they get a solution at the end, don't they? And it's really nice. And the journey's been a real painful one. But most, so I suppose harsh reality is it actually isn't quite like that. So most people are sensible what they do and what they can do. But I think most people also miss out on the big dream. It doesn't take a lot of extra knowledge to turn something which is a dream home into a super dream home. So you can imagine what your dream home is going to look like, because you've seen pictures, you've seen the telly and so on.
Yeah.
But it's not that much more to turn into a super dream house that's for you. If that makes sense. Yeah, well, so it's taking a great idea, making it even greater.
That's fantastic. And I'm sure, we're just kind of getting up at the moment. Hey, Joe, how are you? Joe Marvin. So that's my friend there.
Hi there. Yeah,
I mean, I kind of got my fingers burned. I bought a property in SEEHRA. I actually bought it before the auction. I managed to get it, and on the face of it, I mean, I know nothing about it. I mean, I had a builder go in who I kind of worked with quite a long time, and it just transpired it was going to be like a money pit. I mean, I've ever seen that film with Tom Hanks.
Yes. Great film.
Yeah, it ended up being like that. So in the end, I just got my money out. But then on the other one, some others I've done very well.
Yeah.
Hey, Kirsty, how are you? Kirsty Gray, saying hello. We should be. I'm just going to check because we should be streaming the comments on screen, but I think StreamYard's having a bit of a moment tonight. So I'll just put the questions to you. So I guess if you kind of tell us about the background and where it all started, and what you maybe some of your passions and some of the projects that you're really proud of, maybe, and see what people think.
A bit of inspiration, if I can. So I'm the son of a working class man, working class family. Grew up under the shadows of the baseball ground, or the home of Derby County Football Club here in Derby. So Derby's my home, and my passion is Derby. So from very humble background, my father always taught us knowledge, acquire it where you can, and work hard. And that's the ethos we've carried through. I've been privileged to have a university education in a field that I wanted to do, civil engineering. So I didn't know what it was until somebody told me, "Oh, you wouldn't make a good architect. You make a good civil engineer." Right. I said, "What's one of those?" Because they take architects' ideas and actually make them happen. I said, "I like that. That's kind of me." So I had a very practical upbringing. My father got made redundant in the early '80s when the sort of post-Thatcher years. And in that period, he used to drag my brother and myself along to odd jobs he'd be doing. So I remember fitting windows, hanging doors, cutting architrave, fitting kitchens. So it was a kind of, I suppose, ingrained, and I found it fairly easy. It wasn't an easy apprenticeship because he made us start from sweeping up the floor first, and labouring to then allow us to be go on the tools with the saws and the planes and everything. So I had a pretty practical background. I got a good university education in London. So I call London my second home, which 4 or 5 very memorable years down there. Then when I came back to Derby, I was employed in civil engineering. I've been doing that since 30 years now. Working in various companies, acquiring knowledge and how companies run, etc. And in 2019, when we met, I actually decided, I've worked enough for other people. I'm going to work for myself now. So I left corporate life and shot off and set my own business up. So one of them is a planning business. Is a business that, so if you want to buy a house and extend it, I'd do your plans for you. So what you normally say an architect would do, I can do that. I can design the plans. I can tell you how big it's going to be. How much it's going to cost you, and then get a builder to build it as well. So we do that. But in property investing, I've been property investing for a number of years, but we had a kind of a quiet period in the 2000s, you might say, when the kids were quite young. It was difficult to spend time elsewhere. So the 2000s, is that the 2020s? Is that what they call it? 2000, 2010. We're very quiet. So it's only about 6 years ago that my business partner and I. And that's a golden lesson is if you're doing something, it's easier when it's done together.
Yes.
So luckily we've known each other most of our lives. And he said, "Come on, Ranjit, let's get back into property." And I was a bit reluctant to begin with, and he kind of persuaded me, and we haven't looked back. So we went in to like a training event, very much like you came to mind, Darren.
Yeah.
And we thought we knew things. We were blown away by how much the industry had changed. We immediately decided that we didn't know much, and we went and got some training, which is very much what I do now as well. I pass training on to others, so if people want to get trained, I help them to avoid the mistakes that most of us make. So we've been in property really, I'd say, last 5 or 6 years. I love it. It's part of that construction thing, and I just love it. We like properties, stripping them back to brick, knocking them about, adding value by extending them. And then, we don't do it for the money. We do more for the good quality properties with good quality tenants. Providing a service, providing a home for someone, and we do most of those in Derby, and therefore people coming into Derby to perhaps work for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, secondments into Derby, Rolls-Royce, Bombardier, Toyota, some big industries here in Derby. Even Nottingham, we've had people live in Derby who then worked in Nottingham because they like to live in Derby, and Nottingham wasn't that far. So that's what we do. And projects you run about, so most exciting projects or inspiring.
Yeah.
So these HMOs, or houses of multiple occupation, you might call them student lets in old money.
Yeah.
But we've got them geared up for professionals. So they're actually, my wife said, houses are better than our own house. Because they're ensuite, very posh kitchens and so on. So we want to make sure that I call them kids, because most of them in their 20s are living away from home, and they want a nice environment because they can spend a lot of time there. I'm doing a couple of new house builds at the moment. These are a couple of clients who came to us, and we did the designs for. One of them's one of my designs. The other one, the design was already done, so they got the planning approval, and I had to turn it in from an architect's drawing into a proper let's construct it drawing. So I'm working with the builders on those two, and they're coming along. So they're going to be family homes for one's a growing family. They're building them for themselves. It's really nice. It's got like basement area. You hear about basement kitchens or basement cinema rooms, so they've got that in there. And the other one's going to be a grand 7-bed kind of luxury home. So this is a real top end, and the guys are really passionate about what they want to do. And it's really exciting to see things. You go to construction guys, mud everywhere, isn't it? You don't want to go on there. You might get mud.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I've been through that phase. The mud's out the way. The foundations are the bricks are slowly going up now. So also we had frost last week.
You sound a little bit. It sounds a bit. Your sounds a little bit insistent.
Is that any better?
Slightly. It's a bit of a distortion.
Don't know what's happened there. So let me just try it again.
That's slightly better, yeah.
So that's a bit better.
Technology. Better, yeah. That's a bit crackly again now.
So what's happening there? Let me. Try again. Is that any better? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's still slightly better. I'll just do a very quick shout out while you just press on that. So I'll say hi to Daniel Rickson. How are you? Alan Morwood. Hey everybody. Karen. Anybody that's watching, if you've got any ideas, any sort of questions for Ranjit, obviously, he's sort of in the property development now. Maybe you're sat there, you're thinking, well, I haven't got the cash. I haven't got the cash. And maybe it's something looking to get into. So, Ranjit, hey, how are you? Good to see you. Yeah, it's kind of distorting.
Sorry, Darren, I don't know if you can hear me. You coming out crackling voice. I couldn't make it.
That's it. Yeah, maybe leave that alone there. No. Yeah, for those that are old enough, it's what we call a tomorrow's world moment, isn't it? Just 1 second, guys. We've lost the connection. Lucky I'm trending media, isn't it? I don't flap. So we're going to keep talking. I'll try and get Ranjit back on because for some reason he's dropped out. So any of you guys got any questions? For me, basically, I can't say I've done quite a few smaller properties like terrace properties where they've been in a big state of disrepair. And then, I've not physically done the work. I want someone to do the work for me and then flip them. So flip them back out again. I'm going to text him back. Just going to give it a moment. I'll use some of my presenters for showreel. Have you had a time in the past when you had to fill in? So I'm not quite sure what's going on there, guys, but everything's kind of down his end. So whether the internet's cut out or whatever, but he's not answering. So we'll give it a few minutes. See if anybody else is going to basically ask any questions. But it happens, you know. It's dealing with technology. We're not in a room. You know, we're not all together yet. Also, if you're based in the Midlands, you may be interested in an event that I've got basically running in May, Antennas, 21st of May, and it's called Inspiring Events. You may recall that last year I used to run empowering events with Victoria Prince, and it's basically inspirational or motivational speakers, and it's a really good night out, and that's basically, in Nottingham on Wednesday, so actually the 19th of May in Nottingham. If you just Google Eventbrite, inspirational events. I'm just going to try and run once more, and failing that, we're basically going to have to defer that and get Raj back on another time. But let me just try once more. Yeah, we've got him back. There we go. There's always a way.
Can you hear me?
Yes, it's just like working in live telly, I tell you.
I don't know what happened there. I was on the phone. I've grabbed the laptop now.
Yeah, that's no problem. It's you know what it is. It is what it is. You know, and there's I just said to people watching it. You know, we're dealing with technology. It's not like we're in the same room. So, just a quick hello to
my sincere apologies to that. Yeah. Talking about tech failures. A few years ago, I was interviewing someone again from the States who was beaming in, and I'd got 15, 20 people in my lounge because we're going to sing him happy birthday and stuff. Yeah. And he's a big property investor from America. So he's beamed in. It was going to beam into the lounge, and the techie guy who's my business partner at the time turned up with his laptop because he was going to do all the tech stuff, and he geared it all up. And we found that he had a problem. The cable that he needed the internet for wouldn't fit his laptop. So I think either we had old technology and he had new, or the other way around. We probably had a brand new laptop and it takes these special connections. We had the old, plug-in kind of the old connections, and it wouldn't work. And it was like, oh my God, we're going on it now. What do we do? So we almost had a failure. We had to dust down an old laptop and make it work on Supercharge. So
I've been there. I mean, a lot of the keynote speeches that I do, when I work on Apple, I mean, I'm openly saying I actually don't like Windows or anything. I'm definitely an Apple person, and I use MacBook for everything. And I remember one gig in London, because generally you send your presentation ahead. You send it ahead like a month before, because of the big gigs that I do, they've got their own, they've got their own AV technical people. So it's all seamless. You walk on stage, and you're not like sat there like in it with a small group with your own clicker. Everything's seamless. That's the plan. But when I got there, he's like, this guy couldn't have been more apathetic, and he went, "Oh, yeah, you're the Apple man, aren't you?" And I went, "That's the day of the gig." For some reason, they couldn't make it work, and then they had to read all my slides, and then the connector between Apple and their kit.
Their kit is special,
So in the end, from the audience's point of view, it wasn't an issue. We did it with about 3 minutes to spare, but I was so stressed.
You're stressed out about it.
The audience, and I'm going to look like a right mug. So
take failure to care. I'm here now, so let's crack on with it. So
that's right.
I'm just talking about the inspiring and aspiring, and now aspiring couple of houses and new builds we're doing. So and again, I'm finding that I'm throwing ideas at the clients, at the owners who are going to have these properties, and they say, "Oh, we never thought about that. We never thought about that," because they've gone on Homes Under the Hammer or these various refurbishment shows on telly, and Nick Knowles and everything's done, in a flash overnight, and they don't realize actually there is far more out there you can achieve for not much more of a budget than you're already going to spend anyway. Yeah. So yeah, any refurb project, always look for a little bit of inspiration beyond what you've already seen. Remember, these TV programs was probably filmed last year anyway.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah. The production's been, everything's going to be at least a year old.
Yeah.
I'm just going to quick shout out to my friend, Adrian Webster, who's on, and Adrian's a fantastic guy, and he's a motivational speaker like myself. And he's got his book coming out shortly called Tiny Noticeable Things. Tiny Noticeable Things.
Oh, right.
And these are the tiny things in life that make the big difference.
Yes.
Adrian,
for example, is it Adrian Webster? Yes. I've had the pleasure of his company.
Oh yes.
He may not remember me, but
he may. He's on. He just said go Darren, but a tiny. I mean, it's applicable to property, I guess, as well. Because for example, you could be. One of the perks that we get as speakers is we get put in a really nice hotel generally. It's one of the perks that we get as professional speakers and by clients. And I know Adrian speaks about. He had the brochure, and he had, was going to do the jacuzzi, and he had, the golf course and all these facilities. And then, the person on reception that's there to check him in is the most miserable person that you've ever met. one tiny incident can then sour everything else. So very much, certainly companies or people, even though they see the bigger picture and just focus on, the service, very often people don't see the value in the tiny thing, so that's what his book.
No, I think Adrian's got a cracking, he's polar bear guy. I call him polar bear guy. Yeah. So if you're listening, Adrian, shout out. You might remember me as a Sikh gentleman who, I think I celebrated so many years of marriage when you gave a presentation to Severn Trent Water. We're going back maybe 3 or 4 years now, maybe 5 years.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed his
he's as well, you see. But
tiny little things, that's where it starts. So they say a journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. A journey to refurb a house, to go into property investing, starts with the first acquisition of knowledge. Yeah, you need knowledge because we can acquire knowledge quite freely. Events like this, you me interviewing me, I don't know how many people this is going to go out to, but I always look at it, even if it touches one person and they learn something, there's a butterfly effect. So it's the tiny things we do. And if it goes to 1,000 people, it'll touch 1,000 people. Even if one of those takes something away, you've made a difference.
He just said, I do remember, actually. He just said, I do remember you.
He does remember me.
He does.
He does. I'm sure he does, yes. I try and make a habit of being a pain when I'm in audiences. Always doing the opposite to what everybody else expects. Great. So it's a difference of 1,000 small things, which makes a big difference later on. I think there's a famous saying, and we say it in property as well. Would you rather do one thing 100% better, or 100 things 1% better? Right. And it's much easier to do 100 things 1% better because you can accumulate them over time. Rather than trying to find the one big thing. Going with the property, it's tweaks here, little changes there. Those daily activities of keeping your mindset in the right place, making sure you're not taking too big a risk, because risk is, like you've said, you had your own experience where you only just got your money back out. Well, what if it was the other way? You lose your money. What's the point of doing it all? Yeah, exactly. So it's managing risk, and then just taking those little actions every day that when you do your big project, you're ready for it. Yeah. That's my takeaway. Yeah. So pleasure to meet you again, Adrian. I'll watch him on the playback.
You should say hello. Yeah, say hello from me. I've just said about me and Adrian are actually on the set. We were due to perform at the same gig last year, and obviously got cancelled because of COVID. So we've both been booked for the same virtual gig again. So at least I'll be with them virtually. We've never shared the same stage yet. I'm sure we will.
If that's open to the public, let me know. I'll listen to the audience and make a
you're welcome, mate. Well, there's certain people in life, even though you've never met them, such a lovely, genuine guy, and knows one of those people like yourself. So I'm thinking, say if I'm sat at home now, I'm looking at this, and I want to get into property, but I've not got stacks of cash, because I think the other myth, I think what people have is that I need like stacks and stacks of cash. I've got my own property, so if I give you a scenario, maybe we could do something with it. So I'm Joe Scope, I'm sat at home. I've got a property which I've been paying maybe off sort of 10 or 15 years. I'd love to get into property, but I haven't got a clue. And, what do I do? What's my first step, do you think, Ranjit?
That's a great question. I mean, it's a starter question, isn't it? It's really powerful because we always have these thoughts at Christmas. Yeah. And we've gone through Christmas. I'm sure most people can relate to that question. So let me fire off a few things. And I always say, the best things in life are free. Because of the internet, there is so much free information out there. Don't filter it. Just immerse yourself in it. Right. So whether it's looking at, videos like this. So if you tap into YouTube Property UK or Property Derby, Property Nottingham, there's bound to be someone doing something in those fields nearer to what you where you live, perhaps, or where you want to invest. So look those up and listen to them, watch them, get some books on property investing. I always say to someone, a book a week is adventurous. A book a month is not that hard. Yeah. So a book a month for 3 or 4 months, you'll find a few months into this journey, rather than jumping feet in, you've acquired knowledge, because knowledge is not going to cost you a lot to acquire. So like I said, there's free videos, free audios, podcasts.
And even audio books, things like that as well.
Podcast is another one. So, where people have recorded audio books or audio episodes and made them available. So listening to people for inspiration, mindset, and then some of the property how-to as well. That's all, if you're commuting to work, okay, we're not driving now, but say you were on the bus, you're in the car, you're on the train, you plug it into your ears and away you go. The podcast can play and they give you perhaps more knowledge than maybe listening to the odd rock band or something.
Well, Anthony Robbins calls it NET, no extra time. So you can, even though if you're getting the tram, or in Nottingham we've got trams, but the bus, like you say, or you've got some downtime, make use of that. You can still be doing what you're doing and still, like you say, listen to different resources.
And it might be you don't get 5% of it, 10% of it. I mean, I'm a terrible listener in terms of I don't learn very well from audio. So I have to see things, I have to touch and feel, I have to write them down. Sure. Even now, I've got my little notebook here, so to remind myself, I will write things down and they go into my brain much, much better than just listening. So everyone has a different learning style. So you can listen, learn, watch, talk to people, network events. There are a shed load of free events going off at the moment. So you need to look on Facebook, Facebook property events, and they'll come up, and a lot of them are free. So you can join in on StreamYard, Zoom, or whatever it might be, webinars. So you can acquire a lot of knowledge. Some of it, maybe just basic knowledge, but that's basic knowledge is the first step to this journey of 1,000 steps. So I would say to anyone contemplating it, the magic triangle: time, money, experience, or experience and knowledge. Let's call it knowledge for now. So you can acquire knowledge very, very easily. Yeah, and there's no excuse for it. And anybody says, I don't know what to do, well, then here's a solution. Go and learn what to do. Okay, you may not know how to do it, but you may find out what to do, and then you find out how to do it. So that's one thing. Time, and that's covering time. We can make time, net time. Yeah, no extra time. We've all got that. Bedtime. It could be 20 minutes of bedtime. Podcast, read a book, scribble some ideas down. Yeah. So we can all create a little bit of time every day to do these learnings. And learning and time come together then. Once you've got that in place, there's an adage which says the money will follow. Okay. And that comes from a kind of a mindset thing. Darren, if you had to find £500,000 tomorrow, or say, let's be more realistic, by the end of the week, or your life depended on it, guess what? You'd find that money. You would, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
And same with money and property investing. If you've got some money, great. Yeah. If you haven't, then you need to connect with people and go on a journey together. So a shared journey is far better than a journey on your own. So you'll go farther with somebody than on your own. So there's a time where somebody may have the money. You've got the experience, you've got the knowledge. Maybe you've visited building sites. You worked in a estate agency. Could you take a Saturday job in an estate agency? Yeah. You can acquire lots of experience, knowledge in the time you've got, and then you can bring the money to the table. And people will invest in people. We say business is a people's business. It's people to people working with people. It's not businesses. It's actually people that make things happen. Yeah. And those relationships built up over time. somebody will turn around and say, I like to work with Darren. He knows his stuff. I like to work with you. I mean, over the years, I've actually had to say no to more money, people offering me money to work with them, than yes.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's not always the deal. It's not always a right relationship. Because
I get that.
When things go wrong, you've got to have the mettle to see it through.
Yeah, totally.
So there's a little bit of learning there. So anybody wanting to start out, it isn't impossible. It isn't easy either. But it's fairly easy given the internet these days. And maybe 20 years ago, I would have said, well, go down to the library and get 5 books out.
Yeah.
Month. So it's the same process. The information is out there. You've just got to look for it and find it.
And I think it's like most things, it's if you apply yourself, I mean, I'm a big person about a thing called traction and momentum. Yes. That a lot of people, they'll take a bit of action on something. It's almost like trying to push a car that's broken down or run out of petrol. It's really difficult. But the minute you maybe get a little bit of help and you get a little bit of movement, it actually rolls itself. And I don't know if you agree, but things in life are very much like that. But it's incredibly difficult to get that first bit of movement and the first signs that something's happening.
Absolutely. The first steps are the hardest steps because it means getting off the sofa, getting and doing something which is different to what you're doing. So that's a state of inertia, getting over that inertia in yourself.
Great word,
it's internal inertia. It is, isn't it? We stop ourselves doing something because it's easy to be
in a
low inertia state. Yeah. So it's the old stick and carrot approach. Either we're forced to do something because the stick is painful.
Yeah.
Something happens in life which makes you do it, or there's a temptation of a better tomorrow, which is the carrot approach. So whichever way you look at it, I'm fearful that I may have nothing in retirement, or I want to plan for my retirement. It's the same action you're going to take, but you're looking at it through a different set of lenses. So I always like to think positively. You can make tomorrow. Yeah.
And also, what do you think about? Because I see there's one particular guy. I can't remember his name, but he spends a lot on Facebook ads, and he talks about OPM, like other people's money. Like you don't need anything to get started. Could you kind of touch upon that? What that means? And
flip it round and say my money, MM. Yeah. So say you had a lot of money, that you wanted to invest. Who would you and what would you invest in? So this is the same philosophy turned down the other way. There are people out there who've got money. Somebody may have just through unfortunate circumstances, but you inherit money. So if somebody passes away, you become suddenly custodian of an estate, a house, maybe something else, material-wise, asset-wise. In the end, the bottom game is there's a monetary value to it. So you can come into money. You may have never had that kind of money. You don't know what to do with it. You may have worked hard, and now you need to make this money that's sitting in the bank getting 0.1% or something. You think, well, actually, if I can get 3 or 4%, I'll be really happy, because you're suddenly getting something rather than literally nothing. So there are people with money, back to that money, time, and experience or knowledge. There are people with money who don't have the knowledge or experience or knowledge or time to do something with it. Yeah. So if you can bridge that gap, if you can have all three, you're self-sufficient. Okay.
Yeah.
But there's very few people who have that. So other people's money is about not taking their money, treating it more guardedly than your own. So you have to be custodian of somebody's money is a huge responsibility. So you have to be accountable to yourself that money is safe and can be returned. It's not money you can be playing with. It's money to be used as a resource because you're actually helping someone. And along that process, the cake is always big enough to be split 50-50. So if you had the money, I had the knowledge, I said, Darren, let's shake hands, let's write an agreement, a joint venture agreement. Let's go and do something with your money that earns you a better return than, say, the bank or where you got it, and allows us perhaps to use property as a main means of making the money work.
So that's how that works. Right.
Yeah. So it's money working for you, but also helping me to do my things as well. Does that make sense? So other people's money is, I look at it as a responsibility, not as a, let's go and get it and grab it kind of thing. Yeah. Not a greed mentality. It's got to be, custodianship. You're a trustee of this money.
Yeah, absolutely.
At some point, you've got to return it.
A lot of trust there. I'll just say a quick hello to Shane Solomon. Shane's runs the Cornwall channel, which I think is the best part of the best place in the world. And I'm going to be spending a lot of time touch wood, if the tier goes down. A lot of times I've got one of the events, one of the projects I've got on the go, Murder in Mind, is starting off in Cornwall. So yeah, I'm going to be going down as soon as I can to do a bit of an interview and some bits and bobs and just kind of catch up with Shane. So
all right, yeah, good.
Shout out to Shane on the Cornwall channel. He's a fantastic musician as well. So if you connect with him on Facebook, Shane Solomon is on my friends list. I saw the other little impromptu gig he did the other night, so that was really good, Shane.
Yeah, we miss all those, don't we? Live gigs and stuff. I mean,
one of my good friends is he's quite a famous folk musician called Eliza Colfie. Fantastic violinist, and you know, and a lot of musicians is struggled because you love performing. You know, that's what I live for. Really, is being on stage and doing my work. And literally, I've done nothing in the best part of a year, and you know, well, thank you. That I've ended up getting sort of four gigs today for bits and bobs. So it's nice to know that things are starting to move now.
I think with the vaccine now being rolled out, I mean, just touching on the current, you know, COVID situation stuff, it's been a very tough year for everyone, and most people have suffered health-wise, financially, and mentally as well. So, you know, back to acquiring knowledge, we can all have acquired, or even though there's still time now whilst we're still in some sort of lockdown, is go out there and acquire knowledge. You know, you can choose to be careful, you know, because people like some of these binging programs. You can watch TV, you can read books, you can create a craft or something.
Yeah.
The time is still the time, is what you choose to do with it. So maybe mix a little bit of knowledge and learning into that. I'm not saying stop everything and, you know, become a totally boring person like me, but you know, you can mix, you know, pleasure with a little bit more of learning. And if you double the learning, guess what? In a few weeks' time, you've learned actually more than double.
You're so right, Ranjit. It's. I mean, I got fed up having to sub a lot of my work out to different people to do like my showroom. Well, I've got one guy who does my show who's fantastic, Jamie. He's amazing. But in terms of other stuff, simple stuff like websites, you know, I was quoted silly money for a website that I launched recently for another project, and in the end, I just spent a week just cramming video, you know, on YouTube, and I just did it myself, and it saved me like $1,000. And I can't believe I've done it myself, and I'm astonished myself, you know. And then video, I taught myself video editing, and I'm not perfect, but you know, it's a learning curve. So
you don't have to be perfect. There's a great friend of mine called Rob Moore who's quite big in.
Oh no, Rob! He interviewed me on his show. Fantastic. Yeah.
Rob Moore down in Peterborough. Oh, right.
Yeah, very, very well dressed. I was like a fob watching.
Yes, yeah, very, very.
Yeah, guy.
Yeah. Okay, you've been on his show though. I've got to listen to that.
Yeah, it was on his. It was a live stream. Yeah, I went down.
Okay, yeah.
It's on YouTube.
Anyway, he's written a book which is, you know, Start Now, Get Perfect Later. That's one of his books, is by that title. So you've got to get started, and like your success in video editing, even if it's a 7 out of 10, that's better than 0 out of 10 or not doing anything. You may get. You might say, well, actually, for a 9 out of 10 product, I'll get someone else to do it. But, you know, for most times, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be just good enough to get going. Yeah, break the inertia, get the momentum going.
Start. Just a quick hi to Liz. Hey, Liz, how you doing? There's Anita and Ashley, Tracy, and Steph. How we doing? We'll get that coffee at some point. So what about? I know, obviously, like maybe I've got. Again, I'm just thinking about getting into it because I love property programs and all the rest of it, and I think I'll be quite good at it. And I've got quite a bit of equity in my house. So what about when people kind of draw down off the property to create money, right? Could you look at that scenario? Is that too risky or?
Yeah, I think a man's or a family's home is their castle. Okay, and one of the things as human beings we want is a safe place. So, you know, there's a famous chap called Maslow and his hierarchy of needs. So he said, you know, the basic fundamental needs of a human being are, you know, food on the table, shirt on your back, roof over your head. So they're the fundamental things. So roof over your head is one of those fundamental things that you need, a sense of security. Okay, and quite often we in our young 20s, 30s get mortgages and then start to pay them off slowly. And they provide that house over your head provides a security. So I can't give advice because I'm not a financial advisor. So I would always say is, guys, your security's got to come tops. So I know some people who are in their 40s have managed to pay the house off and said, nope, that house will never be remortgaged. Never. It's a red line. It will never be crossed. The other people I know in their 50s are saying, you know what, we've got equity in this house. You know, it's a £200,000 house. We've got 20,000 left on the mortgage. Let's borrow some more and do something with it. So their risk profile, so these went back to your individual risk profile, is okay for them, because they say, well, £100,000, we'll raise a bit of money, put into property investment, etc., etc. So they can see a different picture. So when it comes to releasing money in your home, yes, it can be done. Yeah. Would you do it? Would you not do it? Is a very, very personal choice. Yeah? So speak to the advisors, speak to the professionals, but the choice is yours. And don't take a risk that you're not prepared to lose money on. Yeah. You know, so imagine that if you were in this scenario, you can draw £100,000 out of this house. What happens if you lost it? Yeah. If that's a risk you're prepared to take, then do it. If it's a risk you're not prepared to take, then don't compromise your own principles. Yeah.
Do you think that's where you should set the risk level, Ranjit, is the fact that it's not what's going, and that's not kind of like the casino as such, but it's almost like if you can't recover from losing it, then don't do it. Would you say set it at that level?
Absolutely. It's got to be set at the level. Anything you do, whether you put tuppences in the machines at the seaside or or buy shares or go property investing, don't take the risk that you're not prepared to lose. Yeah, because things can go horribly wrong. We notice property goes in cycles. There's ups and downs. So 2008, we're only just young, old enough to remember that. So 2008 was a property crash. Yeah, caused by things well outside our control. People, suddenly had equity in the houses turned into debt. So they suddenly had houses where the mortgage was higher than the value of the house.
Yeah.
Or negative equity. You can't take your money out of that. You can't move. You can't sell. You're stuck. Yeah. So you don't want to be in a position where you end up in that kind of position, or you take a risk with the wrong risk, and you end up in a worse place than you started with. So it's there's a cracking, I think, image I can just paint for you. Imagine there's a hillside. It's not a mountain. It's a hillside. So it's a little slope on it, but you've got to push this boulder up the hill. Now you get over the initial inertia, you start it rolling, you start pushing it, it moves. So, but you can't sustain that forever. You put some exert some strength into it, you push it so far, you wedge it and you stop. Yeah. That's the next, and then you have a choice. You can stay there or you can move on. Very much like property investing. You cut your teeth on something which you're okay with, fairly close to your knowledge base. Do it, show it's the success, or know that how you can do it better, and then do it again. And once you've done it a couple of 3 times, you're probably fairly well versed in how to do it. Then you can maybe choose to do something bigger. Push 2 boulders up the hill. Or push one and put one on your head. You can start to play tricks and then just push your boundaries. So I would always say to people is, this is advice. In fact, we were talking earlier about Grant Cardone. So he's a big property guy in America, the USA. So he was the one who was beamed into my lounge earlier. We were talking about. There's another Darren Galvin, who was a business partner at the time, who facilitated that. So thank you, Darren, if you watch this. But somebody asked Grant Cardone, you must take loads of risks. You're American. You're a big billionaire. You must take loads of risks. And the answer surprised us, really surprised us. It surprised me. And it's something I took away from then on as well.
Yeah.
He said, risk? We don't take any risks.
Wow.
And I was like, what? Hang on. He goes, we only take the risks we're prepared to lose. Yeah. But the risks is very small. We de-risk everything. So we're doing a deal. We'll look at everything, de-risk it, and then we know whatever risk is left, financial, time-wise, or whatever it might be. Yeah. We know what it is, and we try and manage it then. And he said, we don't like failure. Yeah, we may not have big success, we have small success, but we do not like failure. And I took that to heart. I said, yeah, you're right. Actually,
interesting.
Playing with money is not Monopoly. Even in Monopoly, you don't play, do you? You're quite serious, aren't we?
Oh, people.
Yeah. The knives are out, aren't they? So you're very precious and you protect it. translate that into real life property investing is treat the money carefully. It's just a resource to be used. Yeah. And sometimes you have a lot, sometimes you have not a lot. So use it to the best way that if you did lose it, it would not be the end of the day.
Yeah.
You're okay to live with that risk. Yeah. Because things do go wrong. 2008, 2009 was an example of that. House prices are inflated now. Are they in a bubble? Who knows? I haven't got a crystal ball to tell this, what's going to happen tomorrow, but there's always a worry that inflated house prices, unemployment, the COVID kicking in, it's a recipe for funny things to happen or strange things to happen.
Yeah.
So just make sure you've got that food on the table, shirt on your back, roof over your head.
I mean, the estate agents that I've used in the past, they're always ringing me up saying, "Oh, have you got any stock? Have you got anything?" Because I mean, from a sales point of view, I don't know if that concurs with what you think, but property has been quite buoyant the last few months in terms of people buying. I don't know if that kind of bears out with what you think.
I'll give you a little bit of insider knowledge on this. So there's two things that property prices go up and down on: supply and demand. So it's basic economics about supply and demand. So the supply has been driven. So there's a shortage of supply at the moment because people are, furloughed. They're sitting in their homes wanting to protect them. So the amount of houses and people making choices to move house has reduced. So the supply side is a bit reduced. We also have a demand, which is now high demand. So you've got the perfect storm: high demand, low supply. The demand is being driven by the economy. So there are people with money. There are a lot of people with a lot of money made through stocks and shares, maybe other property, or just generally saved up. And it is kind of, people come to me and say, "Look, I've this money in my bank at 0.1%. Can you help me?" I say, "Okay, what's reasonable?" So, well, if I'm happy with 3 or 4%, in a property investment with you, would that work? I said, "Well, yeah, we can do that." So the demand is there because people want to move the money out of banks generally into something which will give them a better return. So you've got this demand up here, supplies down here. You get the perfect storm for a seller's market. So that's what's creating sort of call it a bubble in the market. But these things happen time to time. There'll be another time, maybe in the summer, the supply will go up because people will come out of COVID. Vaccinations are done. There's buoyancy in the economy. People say, "Yeah, let's go and move to the countryside, find those houses." Then you start to see movement of people, and the supply comes back up again. Maybe demand might fall.
Right.
The other thing that's happening at the moment, stamp duty. So that's a tax when you buy a house. That's been zeroed for a few more months now, isn't it? So I think it was the end of March. Yeah. It might extend it. So that also has created a demand because people think, well, if I'm going to buy a house and I can save myself £2,000, £3,000, £4,000, £5,000, why not? Yeah.
That could also be going part way to do a property up, really.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a huge help to refurb a property and sell it again.
Totally. So a quick hello. Got Chris Pearson, one of my sidekick, who I used to work with in the police. And then Liz said, "In uncertain times, it will be foolish to take risks. It's interesting listening to you." And Liz says it's small success is better than failure, and it's all good advice. I mean, I guess the other one is, being a landlord, which is the biggie, really. I mean, I've got a friend that has about 90 properties. He rents them out, mostly like sort of students. So they're all HMOs. And I haven't got a Scooby-Doo how he manages all that, but he does. But he has a lot of hassle, in terms of he never stops. So could you just give a bit of an overview in the sort of 10 minutes we've got left? Any experiences you've had of being a landlord, or what may be the pros and cons of going down that route?
Yeah, sure. I missed half of that. I don't know, the signal cut out.
I was just saying, in terms of in the last sort of 10 minutes we've got, a lot of people obviously don't really want to flip property. They'll want to buy something for their pension pot, so maybe be a landlord. Yeah. So I wondered if you could maybe touch upon, the pros and cons of being a landlord. Maybe, I mean, I just said my friend has got a lot of property and he mostly rents to students, and then sort of people lower down the economic kind of level. But could you just give a quick overview in terms of any pros and cons or advice, not advice, but your kind of feedback in terms of being a landlord?
Yeah, I think I say to people who get into property investing or are already investing, I say, who's the kind of person that you want to rent to? Yeah, work it backwards. Who's the kind of person? Who's your perfect tenant? And some people come from a place, well, I want to help people who are finding it hard economically. So I want to help the social sector. Others say that want to provide for students. Yeah. Others say we want to provide for, we do professional HMOs, so we provide for professionals. Okay. We're, you know, what they call it, white collar, no, blue collar workers, or white collar workers, white collar workers, and admin staff. So we've, you know, the different demographics. So I always say is work with that end in mind and come back then and provide the thing that they need. So at the moment, so you know, the last few months, we're seeing a lot of couples split up. So there's a bit of a demand at the moment for rooms in HMOs for people of working class or people on furlough, where the husband and wife or partners have been together for a while, been together for a long while together in the same house now, without getting out, and tensions are
so crazy.
strained. So that's a current kind of, hopefully, in months, a bit of distance helps the heart go fonder and people get back together again. But there's a demand. Yeah. Student demand is down. So, student property, students are being told to go home, study from home. So, every sector will have its up and down. So I always say to you, Darren, who's the kind of person that gels with you most? So provide us, because when you provide a service to them, you come from a service-driven basis. The money will look after itself.
Yeah.
So there's cash flow now where you rent a property to someone, you get £300-400 a month in your pocket now. Remember, £300 a month in someone's pocket now makes a big, big difference. That's the first touch point. £300 is like one let. If you got one single let, you rent it out to a family, you would generally get about £300 in your pocket after fees and insurances and things like that. So that might be good enough for someone. So, yeah, I'm happy with that. That property, I want it to be part of my pension pot. So, okay, repay it off. So make sure the borrowing on it is reduced over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So that at the end, you've got a property that's free. Yeah, you can sell it, or you can just tidy it up and rent it out again. So you've got a pension pot, effectively, an income. So a small amount of cash now leads to a lot of cash flow later.
Right.
Okay. Other people want to do bigger projects. So, okay, you need to do flips. You need to buy something, add value to it and sell it and make a cut on the margin. So if you can make that lumpy cash, that's cash rather than cash flow, put those projects together, 10 grand here, 5 grand there, 50 grand here, whatever the size of the deal is, put that together, build it up, and then you can do a bigger project. So always design it with the end in mind. Because quite often people will become accidental landlords or will just say, oh yeah, that house didn't sell, we moved, let's rent it out. Accidental landlord. Oh, a parent died, and they've left me this house. I'm an accidental landlord. I don't know anything about landlording. So those properties kind of get rented out, and you with no real idea in mind of what you're going to do with it.
Sure.
So always start with the end in mind, the kind of client, kind of customer, kind of tenant that you want, and then guess what? All that would tell you what you need to do. Does that make sense? So,
yeah, really.
Yeah, if you want to build passive houses in the countryside, green homes, eco homes, go for it.
I mean, to be honest, what I do, Randy, I drive around sometimes, and I saw one recently, but it went for the silly money. But it was a probate property, been stood for about 2 years, and it literally looked like something out of Hansel and Gretel. It was completely literally in a really bad state. And I was waiting, and I went to the land registry. But then obviously the probate went through, so it was a very eager relative who just literally they put it on the market for something very silly. I mean, it wanted about 30 spending on it, and the money was there the other end of the the money was there the top end if you could buy it for the right money, and they wouldn't budge. They wouldn't budge at all. So sometimes just drive around and just sometimes you'll see something. And I've got friends that have done that, and they've contacted the relative and said, "Look, I'll give you this now," or let's make a deal.
Yeah, talk to people, let them know what you're doing. Drive around, you'll suddenly see. It's the old. I don't know how long we've got now, a couple of minutes, but if you bought a pink Beetle car, as in the car, Volkswagen Beetle, don't know if they make them anymore, but if you bought a pink VW Beetle. And these are very rare. You don't see them, do you? But guaranteed, when you buy yours, Next day, they'll be everywhere.
It's true.
It's true, isn't it?
Isn't it? Yeah.
You're the human lie detector. You can sense these things. Yeah.
It's right. It's true. It's but the brain works. It's like
so if you're driving around, if you're looking for that, I saw really run-down property with the Hansel Gretel gates and the ivy of a horror house. They're everywhere. Yeah, they are literally everywhere.
Just not looking, you see them. So just a quick shout out in the last few minutes. Somebody got any questions? Ian said, yeah, small accumulation is superior to large hits. And then Age just found it. So I'm sure it'll come back to us. Anybody got any just quick advice they'd like, or any you guys might have? So it's okay if we go over time a little bit.
I hope both of them
Sorry, say again.
So I hope they picked up, our audience has picked up a few nuggets here and there. Like I say, even finding one nugget in one conversation is like gold. It's like gold nuggets. There'll be something.
It takes one thing, doesn't it? I mean, I know my friend that you met when we went in Derby.
Yeah.
And he's in a situation that, I mean, that really affected him in a positive way because, he's got a property himself. He owns one outright, and he bought his mum's. His mum's sadly passed away since we met you. He's now. He's now got that property with his brother. So, he aside from losing his mum, he's in a very different position. He wasn't aware of that until suddenly we're in a situation we're not aware of until someone like you points it out.
It's knowledge, isn't it? It's knowledge. You hear knowledge, you see knowledge, you read knowledge. You talk. Just talking with someone, asking good questions, or just asking questions. Full stop.
Definitely. Well, Shane just asked, a great call. How many doors? So I guess how many properties do you need to have like in your portfolio to be a full-time property investor? Do you think? He's put 10 question mark.
It depends on the lifestyle you want. So let me give you some. I'll give you some real detailed numbers.
I think we're okay, but for 10 minutes, if you guys are, because we lost.
Okay for a few minutes. So, one single let. So let's talk about the Midlands. Yeah, a single let with a mortgage on it will give you about, say, £300 in your pocket,
right,
every month. Okay, after mortgage, after expenses like insurance and so on, and agents' fees. So say work on £300 a month, so single let. So you would need 10 of those probably. Yeah, £3,000, £30,000, £36,000 a year is the kind of average salary these days.
Right.
So you need about 9 or 10 of those. So you're right.
So you're probably the money for that then, Shane. Yeah, but
if you're into HMOs like we are now, HMO will rent out by the room. So it depends on how many rooms you've got.
Yeah.
But the working number, that's kind of the average of averages, is about £1,000 per month in your pocket. Right. So it's a bigger game. Yeah, so it's a bigger spend. It's like taking a 2-bed, 3-bed terrace and turning into a 5 or 6-bed.
Oh yeah,
property, yeah. So you're creating value in the loft. You might extend at the back. So you're adding extra space, and the big numbers are bigger. But all in all, you might get £1,000 in your pocket net of costs, mortgages, and etc.
It can be quite lucrative, then, can't it?
Yeah. So it's lucrative, but there's fewer of them, and there's fewer need for it. Everybody wants homes. Fewer people want HMOs. It could be students. It could be professionals. It could be working class. It could be divorcing or separated, partners. You could cater for that market. So you now, for £3,000 a month, you only need 3 of those. 2 of those with a part-time job is a life-changing experience. So when you ask the question, how many properties you need, it depends on the mix.
Yes, yeah.
That you have, and your amount of work you want to put in. A single let is easy to manage. Family moves in, couple moves in, they're going to be there for a few years. Yeah.
And Shane's also said, if Adrian said, found it really useful. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Ranjit. And then Shane said, what's your thought on essays, Airbnb, etc.? What in your opinion?
So ramp up the thing now. So service accommodation is like a hotel. So you're providing a room or a suite or a flat that people book by the day, by the night, by the week. Okay. So it's generally used by contractors. So instead of staying in a hotel, they'll stay in accommodation, which may be a 2 or 3 bed property. 3 of them come and live together. And the cost tends to be, compared to a hotel, a bit less. And they can save money by cooking themselves. So they're not tied to the restaurant in the hotel. So there's that lifestyle difference. So service accommodation, is typically going to put you maybe £2,000 in your pocket a month.
Okay.
But you've got to now run this as a hotel.
Right.
So you've got to let people in. You've got to wash the linen between people. If somebody's going to check in with you at 8 p.m. but can't make it, their train's late, and they're going to now check in at, shall we say, midnight.
Yeah.
Are you prepared to go and let them in at midnight? Yeah.
There was a big. Sorry, go on. You go ahead.
So these are paying guests that are going to come to you, and you have to provide a bed and breakfast type service, a hotel type service. Okay, but it is lucrative. But like we've had through COVID, most SAs have been empty because there is no travel happening. So the risk is higher, the gains are higher. Yeah. So it's a bit harder, but you may need one of those looked after well to have a life-changing salary. So, we're talking about £30,000 being an average salary. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And generally we get the comments on screen, but there's some sort of glitch my side. But basically, James then said, work full-time on your job and part-time on your fortune is a great way to start the property investment ladder. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Great value. No, you're welcome, Shane. No problem.
Yeah, my journey to change took me 10 years. I made the change 2 years ago, but the journey backstory was 8 or 9 years old when I decided that I need to make a change. And it was I think it took 2 years in the end, or 18 months in the end, of making the commitment I wanted to go from full-time employment into other things. Property investment is only one of my things I do. The other being the planning business and a few other fingers and few pies.
Sure.
But yeah, you make that transition slowly and steadily. And then there comes a day of reckoning where you want to make the switch, but not feel any pain when you make the switch from full-time secure employment or security of some sort to working on your own now, because property can be a lonely business. And right at the beginning, we said, if you got a partner with you, great. A life partner or business partner. If you're on your own, seek partnerships with people you can trust. Have a trusted close circle. Yeah.
I think that's fantastic advice, because I think there's so many people, not specifically just in property, but generally, people find it very noble or very empowering to walk into work and say, shove your job, and then got a part-time business, or they're doing working for themselves. But, I did it myself. Well, I did it myself, but I kind of left. But at least I left the police because I was already getting work. I was already getting a lot, probably more work than I could deal with working 4 days off. But whereas my rest of my shift would be having 4 days rest, I was literally working every day on media. So I was in a privileged position that I took off quite quickly. Whereas I've known people that have more or less stopped into work, having to go back maybe 3-4 months later and say, look, I'm really sorry, I made a mistake. Can I come back? Because it's not, it's not taken off like I thought. So I think that's an important thing as well that you mentioned, is that things aren't going to happen overnight, are they? It's going to take time to get that.
And also going into self-employment, which property investing, going for your own business is not for everyone. Yeah, let's not all try and be the same. So we may have aspirations to be investors, property investors, or have your own business, but it's not for everyone. If it was for everyone, we'd all be doing it at the age of 18. Yeah, it will be doing it. It's natural to us. For many of us, the security of employment is actually something we like. I was securely employed for 30 years. So, you were a policeman, in the police service for, so many years. So we like those things. And there comes a defining moment where you say, well, I'm going to make the change. And that change starts with small steps. You transition from full-time employment to part-time employment, a part-time business into a full-time business. And make that transition. It could be short, it could be long, but do it in a transition way rather than what I say, a cliff face way. When you get to cliff face, it's either down or you're up. Yeah, there's no halfway. That's kind of best advice I can give. That's been my journey. Do it slow and steady like the tortoise, not necessarily like the hare.
Definitely.
But other people like to be the hare, and bless them. Because and the other thing, if it doesn't work out for you, don't be embarrassed to go back to work.
There's no such thing as failure, only feedback is what we say in psychology.
Yeah.
There's no
don't burn your bridges, as they say when you leave.
Exactly. And then Shane's just put, okay, for sure. For sure, for things to change, we have to change. Hey John, how are you? And Dominic's watching now. But so we're going to begin to wrap it up now because we kind of took it over time because of the tech fault earlier. But anybody got any last things they'd like to ask Ranjit? How can people get in touch with you, Ranjit, if they want to kind of get to connect with you on social media and stuff?
Yeah, I think I'm probably most active on Facebook or Messenger. So find me as Ranjit Seerha, straight as the name you can see. Very much a similar picture to this. Most of my turbans are blue. You might see the odd one with a maroon or a burgundy color or something. But it's blue turban. Ranjit Seerha on Facebook. And if you connect through there, try and friend you. I've got a lot of friend requests. And I think, I don't know these people. If you're really keen, just drop me a messenger message. Is that right? Yeah, messenger message. And then I can know you where we met, or you watch a show here. I can connect with you there. And if I can help you in any way, just fire away.
Yeah, and I think I'm not just saying this, but I'm a person that speaks from the heart, and I one of my, I won't say New Year's resolutions, but something that I've really employed for the last sort of 2 years is I only really now kind of associate with people that I have a lot of respect for, and you are certainly one of those people that you're such a nice guy, you're so humble with it as well, and that's why I think a lot of you. So I want to thank you so much for your time tonight, Ranjit. I really appreciate it, and I hope people have got a lot of value from it. And again, we've got the inspirational events that I'm running. I'm sure you're going to come to that, and you'll be around, and you run your own sort of training sessions. And once the fog lifts, so to speak, from COVID, and we do get back to some normality, you could do a lot worse than sign up for some training, or at least have a consultation and see where you are.
Absolutely. And you remember the first slide in that training show like 2 years ago, BARK, the Bank of Acts of Random Kindness. Thank you very much for having me on tonight. And, if I can help someone, that's the bonus. If they can help someone, that's a super bonus.
That's right. Fantastic. And in closing, Shane's just put, feel free to connect. And I'll be on Darren's I'll on Facebook. Any friend of Darren's is a friend of mine. Again, Shane's a fantastic guy based down in Cornwall, and he runs the Cornwall TV channel. And again, to Liz, thank you both. A lot of food for thought. On that note, again, I'm going to thank everyone for tuning in this week. Next week, I've got Sven, who's based in Plymouth, and he literally has wrote a book. He's a fantastic guy. He lived through the downing of the Berlin Wall. So he's from East Germany. He now runs a company to do with conflict resolution and lots of different things. But he's such a fantastic guy, again. And it's going to be really, really interesting. So that's next week. Age just followed you on Facebook as well, Ranjit.
Right, okay.
So,
log in. I'll retrieve my phone and see what happened to it here.
Yeah, and also I do a little bit of a nudge every week. I'm trying to get my YouTube channel figures up. So even though we're on Facebook, it does stream onto YouTube as well. So I'll put a link in for my YouTube channel, Darren Stanton Live. So if you guys could subscribe, I'd really, really appreciate that, because I'm trying to get my numbers up. And then just close in. Shane's just put, thank you, Darren. Can't wait until you come to our studio. Yeah, as soon as the teardrops, I'm down, because I've got a lot of PR going off. So as soon as I can come down, Shane, I'll be down there, because trust me, I don't need any excuses to come to Cornwall.
Cool.
Well,
I'll come along with you, Darren, if you're going down.
Absolutely. I'll treat you. There's a fantastic place in Plymouth, which is technically Devon, and it's been there 50 years, called Captain Jasper's. And everybody that's spent time in Plymouth, and it's basically like a tea and burger place on the quayside. And you get the Navy going, you get the police going, you get bikers. It's some amazing little focal point. And that's the place I was head for in Plymouth is Captain Jasper's.
Captain Jasper's, brilliant. I'll watch out for that one. You have not been down there in decades.
Oh, yeah.
No.
You're it's the best place in the world.
Yeah, brilliant.
Okay, guys,
Thank you very much for having me.
And again, anything I can do for you, get in touch. And again, just a big thank you for hopping on and giving us your expertise. So if you stay on the line for me, I'll have a quick chat with you, Ranjit. Okay. See you guys. Take care, and I'll see you next week, 8 o'clock, Facebook Live. Take care.